So between my Jeep Gladiator and my Land Rover V8 5.0 Guzzler, I find myself at the local gas station practically every day. Got to be annoying. I mean, it was at the point where I started recognizing the Syrian guy who runs it threading schedule for his eyebrows. My God. And you know, as much as I appreciate well-groomed eyebrows, it just got to be enough. So I decided, let's try this electric motorcycle thing. So here I am on my Zero S, and in this review I'd like to talk to you about the electric motorcycle experience that I've had, not just with the Zero, but with some of the other brands as well. There's a lot of benefits to them, some pleasantly surprised me, and a lot of limitations. One, of course, is the range, and that's why I find myself delegated to taking the more scenic view more often than not, to avoid the highway, because the range at 70 plus miles an hour is just not where it needs to be. So stay tuned and let's have that conversation, see if this is something you should consider. Zdravo I dobrodošli, bon dia, bienvenidos, servus, willkommen, buenos dias, bienvenidos, greens, riders, and welcome to another review by Pegasus Motorcycle Tours Consulting. Yours truly, Nick, with an electric motorcycle this time, the Zero S, straight out of California. I test rode this many years ago when they first came out, and they were doing test rides here at the Triumph dealer, and I was very impressed with the torque, albeit not the looks. The looks are still not very appealing to me. A lot of plastic, a lot of very dull colors, especially on this model. It just makes you think what they were thinking. It makes it look very cheap and plasticky and very small bike overall. But after owning one, I decided it was due, I think overdue, to actually review this bike and let you know my opinions. I've test ridden more or less every motorcycle that's electric that's available to us here in Southern California, including the Bramo when it was available before it was acquired by Polaris, and including the Italian Energica as well. Really beautiful bike, and of course Livewire by Harley. So they say this is the future. I'm a little skeptical about that, and I'll tell you why. I'll give you the positives and the negatives. It won't be a very technical review. I'm not a techie. I don't enjoy the technical talk when it comes to megajoules and gigawatts and that kind of thing, which none of that applies here. But you will get my impressions of what I like and what I dislike about this motorcycle so far. So a little bit about the bike. This is a 415-pound SR model, which in the newer generations has a larger battery, 12.5, the ZF battery. This is an air-cooled motor. What else to say about it? No liquids to change, a belt drive that requires almost no maintenance. That's the benefit of this bike. All other bikes that I've owned have been gas-powered, and the amount of maintenance and the heat and the oils and this and that you have to replace on those bikes gets a little old after a while, especially if that's your not only your lifestyle but your profession. Here all you have to worry about basically is the brakes, the standard brake pads that are easy to replace on this single-sided 320mm brake for the 17-inch wheel. The motor itself, how does it compare? Basically it's like a 650 sport bike, I would say. Plenty of torque, 100 and some foot-pounds of torque at 76 horsepower for this particular model. It was a 25% increase in power over the previous model, 56% increase in torque, and you definitely feel it. Very agile, small, and aggressive bike if you put it in sport mode. And it does have 3 ride modes. One is customizable, the other is Eco.
So how does it work here? Basically just tells you 100% battery.
And then this is the estimated range based off of your driving style. So I just take it on the highway. And then you can
so that's what you get basically.
Yeah.
On the highway.
On the highway.
Yeah.
That's very accurate because it's got like 5,000 miles of data, so it just keeps getting better and better.
I'm at 63.5 miles, you know, so it's like, it's just not, I don't like to have that.
But the battery pack, there's a company in San Marcos that does it, and then another one, the Triumph in downtown. The one in San Marcos, I forget what they're called, but they're cheaper by like a little bit because their labor is a little cheaper. But here are the different modes. You can have your eco mode, your sport mode, and your custom mode.
Can you adjust that when you're riding, or you have to be stopped or something?
No, as long as you're going slower than 40 miles an hour, you can change.
I'll check it out.
If you're, say you're on the on-ramp and you're going from eco to sport, it happens all the time, you have to stop accelerating. So let off the throttle, then you can change the mode as long as you're going slow enough. you'll know when it changes the mode because it'll flash. So when you change the mode, it's going to flash. When the flashing stops, it's engaged in the next mode, and then you're good. You can try it around the neighborhood.
Cool.
And this was like a zero.
I see the logo up top. Yeah.
Label. So this is all zero stuff.
And the windscreen as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
the
commuting.
company provided everything for me.
Now, the Eco mode limits you to 70 miles an hour. You can't go more even if you're going downhill. And I argue on the highway here in California, especially where everybody's going over the speed limit in virtue of, I don't know, lack of police. It's just not somewhere where you want to be. You find yourself in the rightmost lane all the time. Even semis are passing you. And it's just not a fun place to be with the sound of the trucks and the big tires next to you. Speaking of, the sound is one thing that I actually quite enjoy. Not the sound of the motorcycle at all, but the lack of the sound of the motorcycle. After being in a helmet for, you know, a lifetime, let's say, it gets to be kind of nice not to have to hear the buzzing, you know, for a while. I always have motorcycles in the garage that satisfy that itch as well. But I like the fact that I can be alone in a helmet and all I hear is the wind passing by. So it's one of those things that just the added benefit, the silence that you get out of the motorcycle, it brings back that feeling of motorcycling, allowing you to contemplate, to be alone with your thoughts. That's part of adventure touring for me, especially solo adventure touring before the availability of Bluetooth headsets and whatnot, is the fact that you can be alone in the helmet. And this motorcycle provides that ability. So the noise is definitely a plus, but it does come with the negative. And the negative is that nobody else can hear you either. And I actually find myself feeling much less safe on this motorcycle than my bigger bikes, because not only can you not be heard by other vehicles, but you can't hear other EVs that are behind you. Let's say it's lane splitting here in California. I've done a 2-part video on that. It's a great law, contrary to popular belief, much safer for bikers, so I use it often. With this bike, it's very small, it's very narrow, so you can do that very, very, very well. However, if another bike is behind you, and that happens to be a Zero or another electric motorcycle, and they want to pass aggressively, etc., you find yourself kind of caught off guard as well. You just can't hear it. So the best part of the Zero, in my opinion, is the fact that you get a maintenance-free, for the most part, engine that's very, very quiet. And it's a very sporty engine. It's actually quite satisfying. If I were comparing it to anything in the gas world, it'd be like a 650 sport bike, the SV 650, for example, Suzuki. One of my favorite bikes, albeit in the 1000 version. Take a look at that review. This particular engine, the 12.5 ZF, is about, what, 25% more power and over 55% more torque from the previous one that I used to run. And pushes at about 67 horsepower and over 100 foot-pounds of torque. So plenty of power available right away to twisted throttle. That's the benefit of the electric vehicles in general and motorcycles in particular. Another thing I actually don't like about the bike is how small it is, how raked out it is. I think it's a 24 front angle of rake, 24 degrees of rake out front, and I feel like I'm over the front wheel. It's quite stable at speed even. It's not an issue of not feeling stable. It's just I don't like to be so cramped on the bike, and I feel cramped on this one with the 17-inch wheels front and back. The seat itself is also kind of uncomfortable for me. In particular, it pushes me too far forward, and I find the stock handlebars very narrow and very, very thin, actually. So these are upgraded to make it a little more comfortable. But I do miss the gears, and Brahmo had a 6-speed gearbox before they went bust. I was almost about to pull the trigger on one. They were purchased by Polaris, I think, in 2015 or something to that effect. And it was a good bike. I mean, one of their motorcycles actually won Isle of Man, I think in 2009. Pretty impressive numbers. And I love having the gearbox, even though it was kind of superfluous. It wasn't really useful in the sense that you could do without it on that bike. But I do miss it. I feel like you're riding more of a toy than a motorcycle without the gears and without the ability to shift and to choose where you want to be. and without the ability to engine brake the way that you want, as aggressively as you want. And speaking of engine braking, this has a lot of benefits when your engine braking actually regenerates the battery by a little bit, neutrally, let's say, or when you're using the brakes. So those are two different modes that you can customize how hard you want that to take effect when you're just coasting or when you're actually applying the brakes. The brakes themselves are very, very sufficient for what this bike needs. I believe 320 in the front, single side, and small, of course, in the rear. ABS works great, looks like it should. Suspension is a Showa inverted 41 millimeter fork, and the rear is fully adjustable, which is kind of impressive. So when it comes to suspension, the bike also does take the corners in a very satisfactory manner. And city riding, where I believe this bike mostly belongs, is not a problem. Even here, some of the streets are horrendous. You wouldn't believe in San Diego, but this bike really takes it well. So it brings me to the next point. What is this bike for? The main limiting factor, of course, being the range. The range has been so elusive, and it's always less than what the company actually advertises. I mean, sometimes by as much as 25% is what I've been reading. For me, the first one with my 9.7 battery, I couldn't get 40 miles on a highway without that thing. That's just not enough. This one shows even a less charge when we're going on the highway, but then it regenerates quite quickly. So I can be in the single digits when I arrive at my destination 32 miles later, but it would regenerate to 60% a few hours without having a charge, which is kind of interesting. So it's just very unpredictable, and that's the thing. You don't know how to know what the battery is doing or what the health of the battery is. There's just no way to predict, and it adds to that anxiety. We all know about EVs and range anxiety. This is an additional anxiety, what your battery is like. When is it gonna go, you know? Apparently, or supposedly, these bikes can do over 330,000 miles of cycles, charge cycles, before they go down to 80% battery. I mean, I think that's probably not accurate in real world settings. And for some reason, I've never gotten an answer from Zero about this. You're not actually supposed to keep it at 100% charge on a day-to-day, or especially if you're storing it. It's supposed to be around 80. And I never understood that. I mean, if you're buying a motorcycle and range is an issue, you want as much of it as you can, but you're not supposed to keep it at 100. That's a little odd, and I never really could get an answer about that. So I'm not really sure how to speak on that, but so you know. Another thing I had to do was replace the lever on mine, and it actually was kind of expensive. It was about 130 bucks just for the lever, and I actually had to take it apart, literally take it apart, put it together. It wasn't simple plug and play kind of thing. It involved hammers and punches and that kind of thing. So that was a little odd. I mean, considering there's nothing else you really need to do on this motorcycle. Now, for it not being so suitable for the highway, especially in eco mode where you're limited to 70 miles an hour, which is just not sufficient here, then what is it for? If it's for city riding, again, one negative aspect of it is the fact that nobody can hear you, so you're around cars that just get surprised by you. But it needs to have luggage. It needs to have luggage for it to be useful for groceries, for anything really that revolves city riding, if it's not, just pleasure run to the beach and back. This one has a jimmy top case. I like it a lot. I can fit a lot in there, actually. It's removable, of course. But if you were to install side cases, it really takes a hit on the range. Actually, I remember hearing an interview with Elon Musk about one thing that he would change in the auto industry standards, and that was the mirrors. He hates having mirrors outside because they just cost so much when it comes to aerodynamics. So if the mirrors cost so much on aerodynamic Teslas, can you imagine how much luggage costs on a, little, very light, in my opinion, motorcycle? So this motorcycle, speaking of, is about 415 pounds. I think it's very, very light and very well balanced. And of course, this here space is not sufficient enough for a helmet, such as the Honda NC line, which I've also reviewed. Very brilliant design, but it's enough to store a few items, like this very attractive Zero hat. Clearly, I'm a fan. So it's very useful to have that space, and that space is actually also where you can add on a power charger or an extra battery that brings this up to 15.2, I believe, something to that effect. 15.2, I don't know even what. Watts, mega joules, mega gigs, I don't know. I'm not a I don't enjoy talking about electric tech stuff, and sure enough, the most interesting part about this experience of ownership, as much as I actually enjoyed riding the thing, is resale. Resale has been very difficult, and I took a hit on it. It took me a few months to offload, which was kind of interesting because the price was very low, and anybody that would see it was from that world, IT guys, basically. Not your typical biker that you would consider to be interested in the newest technologies, but somebody who's more interested in computers and lithium-ion batteries. So just keep that in mind. If you're buying this mule, you're paying a lot of money for it, and you're not going to get that money back anywhere near close to what you paid for, especially after that 5-year warranty is up. Now, you can benefit from some of the government money they have set aside for EV vehicles, so keep that in mind. But still, the price is very high for these vehicles, and I've test ridden the Italian Energica, very beautiful bike, very beautiful bike, very powerful, but the price is just still so prohibitive for these motorcycles. What I would also urge you to consider is if you're buying this for environmental reasons, you have to research that a little more, because lithium-ion batteries and production, procurement, etc., all that has a questionable, questionable present. If you see some of the protests taking place in Serbia, for example, with Rio Tinto, one of the largest mining conglomerates who wanted to open up a lithium mine there. Lithium, of course, would bring a lot of richness to the country, but same with Bolivia. The people just know there's a lot of negative aspects with mining that stuff as well. And then, of course, producing and the waste that's produced from spent lithium-ion batteries. You can take a look at Chris Hedges. Chris Hedges has a channel called On Contact, and he discusses some of these, let's say, myths when it comes to how clean green energy really is. So there's that. But my main reason why I wouldn't go back to one of these bikes has to do with the company. I think the company's going the wrong way, and the wrong way being subscription-based ownership. They're not the first or the only to do this. I think KTM, unfortunately, has jumped the ship on that regard, as has BMW. This means that you have an app, and through the app you can actually pay money on a monthly subscription for some of the features on the bike that are already installed, such as more power or faster charging or certain aspects like heated grips. I hate that. I think as bikers in the community, we should definitely send a very clear message to the producers not to go that route, because one, the whole point I'm riding a bike is to be disconnected. I don't want to be connected to my app. That's one thing. I mean, there's a whole issue with privacy that it raises when you have to absolutely be tied to the app. The other thing is, I bought the bike, I paid a lot of money for it, the features already on it, keep them on. Don't try to suck more out of me. It just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But there it is. I like the bike. I like the bike. There's a future in it, of course, but prices need to come down, range needs to go up. Otherwise, I could live without the gears and without the maintenance, that's for sure. Thank you for watching. I hope that was helpful. Stay tuned for next reviews of the EV bikes that I've had the pleasure to experience. And ride safe. Until next time. Nick, I'm out.
Shh.